Thank you very much for coming. For those who don't know, my name is Tzvi Gluck, and I had the schus along with some others here to found this organization just over 2 years ago. I'd like to start by saying thank you to the Young Israel of Kew Gardens Hills. It's the Rav and the president and the directors for really opening up their home to us and bending over backwards to really make this work. I'd like to thank our partner Chazak in really helping us put this event together. And I would like to thank the local Meistes HaTorah Yeshiva Tiferes Moshe, Yeshiva Katana, Benos Malka, and Beis Yaakov of Queens for really helping get the word out and showing the importance of this topic and what we're dealing with to the Queens community. I also would like to thank Season Supermarkets for being the corporate sponsor for this event. And of course, the staff of Amudim, Rabbi Avi Feldman, Michael Geiger, and the entire staff for really stepping up and helping to make sure that this event can go on. Unfortunately, we are living in times that are being plagued by unprecedented issues in Klal Yisrael, or at least that weren't as publicized or as known about until recent years. Unfortunately, people get upset at me when I publicize certain things, like the number of deaths we've suffered under the age of 35 in a counter that I started keeping track of as of Rosh Hashanah. An email that I sent out on Friday had that number at 65. Unfortunately, as of today, that number is 66. It is no longer possible to try to make believe that certain things that are killing our kids are not happening. Whether it's being victims of sexual abuse, whether it's suffering from addiction, whether it's mental illness, these are issues that we must confront and accept that this is a problem, and it is our responsibility as part of Klal Yisrael to do something about it. The concept of saying it's not in my backyard no longer applies. I don't know any family that I know of that doesn't know someone, either in their immediate family, extended family, or neighbor, that has suffered from one of these things. I don't know of any. And the idea of making it seem like this is not a problem and something that shouldn't be spoken about, or when I'm being accused that I'm making a chilul Hashem when we talk about these issues, just can no longer go on. So therefore, we have made the decision to do what we can do, both to provide the treatment, the services, the referrals, the therapy to help people, but just as important, if not more important, to work with professionals and Rabbanim and Das Torah and bring awareness to these issues in a method that can actually affect change, which is the reason why we're here today. So I really want to thank those of you who took the time out to come. And I have to say, this is the part of my job that I hate. I'm the first to admit it, dealing with these issues, but I love the fact that we're helping people. So without further ado, because nobody really came here to hear me speak, although you'll get it anyway, I'd like to ask Harav Elya Brudny Shlita, who has been guiding us from the halachic angles since pretty much our inception, to please share some words with us.
Thank you, Tzvi. We have Dr. Shlomi Zimmerman here, who really the message that he's going to be sharing with us is probably in practical terms more valuable. But I do feel I was asked to present a Torah perspective, and I try to gear it as much as possible to some of the reasons that we continue to allow things that were eminently preventable to happen. And I'm trying to figure out what the Torah says about some of these situations. Most of the time, when something that shouldn't happen happens, there was red flags out there to be noticed beforehand. And whether it's loving parents, eminently capable educators, and other people that should have noticed that something was amiss, it just passed over them, or it passed by them, almost till it was too late. And if it would have, the signal would have been noticed earlier on in the process, the prevention would have been such that whatever therapies would have been needed so much less complex and so much more painless, so much less pain both the victim and his family would have been subjected to. So why does this happen? People are smart. A parent cares. And why does one allow for a signal to go unnoticed and unheard? So I think basically there are two dynamics that come into play. And Chazal speak about both of them. Shlomo HaMelech in Mishlei elaborates. And I just want to bring that out. Every Tisha B'Av, we're not supposed to learn Gemara. So we learned that we all come back every year to the Gemara in Gittin. The Churban of Yerushalayim, the Churban of Tor Malka, the Churban of Beitar, tremendous Churbanos that could have and should have been avoided, and really little small episodes that could have been caught in the bud would have prevented them. And the Gemara begins with a pasuk, Ashrei Adam Mefachei Tomit, praised be the person that is always fearful, apprehensive, Umaksha Liboy, someone who's strengthens his resistance to fear and to apprehension, Yipol Bara, will in the end fall into a bad situation. And the Gemara brings the famous Gemara, Al Kamtza Bar Kamtza Charba Yerushalayim. It was a gentleman that sent his messenger to invite his friend, and instead he invited his enemy. And when he saw that the enemy showed up, he wanted him to leave. And he humiliated him publicly. And the rabbis there, Chachamim, chose to let it pass, and obviously for good reason at the time, to avoid controversy, to avoid making a scene, to avoid making a Chilul Hashem. But the Gemara teaches us that what evolved was the destruction of Yerushalayim and the destruction of the Beis HaMikdash. Because one thing led to another thing, and this person went to Rome, and he had an inside with the rulers of Rome, and the Beis HaMikdash came out, and Yerushalayim was destroyed. A little thing. It's true. It was practical to ignore. But that's without taking in the consequences, the broader picture. So the lack of pachat, and instead maksha liboy. There's a pasuk in Mishlei, in Kapitel Yudalit. Chacham yorei, a wise man is fearful, v'sor meira, and he avoids bad situations. Uksil, and a fool, is misaber ubateach, finds energies to surround himself with false bravado, and it'll be fine, it'll be good. And it's a human trait. We don't want to get into a complex situation. So one has that inner mechanism that he could develop within himself to just, it'll be fine. Like in Israel they say, Yeh tov. Yeh tov. And those that know a little bit about some of the disappointing military engagements in Israeli history, some officer, some general, smoch alai, yeh tov. It'll be good. False optimism based on wishful thinking. So when a situation arises and a subtle signal, my child starts acting a little bit out of character, it does cross my mind what could have happened. And sometimes my radar picks up. Could it really be that what I noticed last week, whether it's a sibling or a relative or a guest, but whatever it is, admitting it, pursuing it, being vigilant about it, is going to upset the apple cart in a very painful way. Following a lead could upset an apple cart, could make things complicated, could break relationships. It could arguably put a family into upheaval. The same thing in a school. Child comes home, blurts out something to my wife. What does that mean? And I have an assignment. Let it ride. That's easy. It'll be good. It's probably nothing. It's probably my imagination. But if I do try to pick up the signal, I have to deal with the signal. Where do I start? Who do I call? Where do I blow a whistle? How do I blow a whistle? It's very complicated. And people make that decision time and time again to do what they think and feel at the moment is more expedient. To just not notice the flag. We have that mechanism within us. We have the ability of ksil misaber uboteach. A fool develops defenses against chacham yoreh v'sar meirah. We have maksha libo yipol bara. We have the ability not to be mefached tamid, not to pick up the signal. And we make the mistake sometimes, and by the time we can't avoid the flag, because it's not a red flag anymore, it's a full-fledged explosion. Sometimes it's very late in the game. You just heard me tzvi. The harshest of the consequences. There are so many different layers of consequences that don't necessarily end up, Rahman al-Islam, that way. But it's misery. It's misery. It's a lifetime of misery. It's a lifetime of misery for generations. Some of these victims, when they build their own homes, sometimes that's not my job here to elaborate. Eze chacham aroya es hanoilad. Who's a wise man who could foresee how a scenario plays out? I think in Pirkei Avos, I think it's this coming Shabbos maybe, Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai had 5 great disciples. Rabbi Shimon was one of them. And he was famous for being a Yerei Chet. He was very God-fearing. He had the Midas Hayira. And he's the one who says, Roya es anoilot. And the Maral says, their description of their character traits and their midah that they preached were parallel to each other. A Roya es anoilot is only if you're a person that's a mafachei tamid. But if you have this tendency to be oblivious, or you could create a facade of being oblivious, you're not going to be a roya sanoilod. You're not going to foresee the scenario playing out. And this is on the side that the clinician doesn't even see. When it gets to the clinician, it's past the inhibitions. And after finally the whistle has been blown or the explosion has occurred, but building up to it could be months and even years of self-imposed choosing to ignore, choosing to be oblivious, choosing to be ignorant. And the consequences are brutal. So it's been bothering me. The best parents. Of course, if you'll blame it on dysfunction, so there is, unfortunately, a percentage of society that are unfortunately not highly functional. But this goes way beyond that. These problems could occur in the most functional families, in the best of schools, state-of-the-art classrooms. How is it that parents, we just said Pesach night, Vayares Yonyenu Esamolenu Elu Abanim. What does one live for? How do we avoid? I think the title of my presentation was The Advocacy for Our Children, Torah's Perspective. How could we place temporary comfort or discomfort in the forefront of a psychology, a self-imposed psychology of ignoring, of being oblivious? How could that be? And it occurred to me that parents that are able to do the act of Mesiras Nefesh, teachers, principals, assistant teachers, school psychologists, whoever it shouldn't be, that are able to do the right thing, risking relationships, risking breakup of family relationships, risking the animosity of children, the animosity of siblings, the animosity of parents, risking the loss of employment, chas v'shalom, and putting that aside and only single-mindedly looking out to be the protector of my child. If you look in the Torah, the Rebbeinu Shalom tells us, Parshas Yisro, by Matan Torah, Ata Re'isem, you saw what I did to Mitzrayim, Va'esa eschem al kanfei nesharim. I've carried you on the wings of an eagle. And Rashi says, an eagle flies higher than all other birds. All other birds protect their children by carrying them down, below them, because the targets are above them. So they're in between the target, the the danger and the child, so the child is below them. But the eagle flies higher than all other birds. He's not afraid of anything above him. Any danger that could come to an eagle is from man, from an arrow. So the kanfei nesharim, the eagle keeps the children on his wings. So if if an arrow comes, it'll hit the eagle, not his children. And Rashi says an amazing thing, that the pasuk in Yisrael is alluding to the Rebbeinu Shalom's conduct with Klal Yisrael at the Yam Suf, where the Mitzrayim were shooting arrows and bullets at the encamping of Klal Yisrael, and the Rebbeinu Shalom, the Ananei Kavod, took in those arrows. Of course, it's only Kivayachol, it's not the Rebbeinu Shalom taking in arrows, but it's a lesson. The Rebbeinu Shalom is Avinu Avarachamon, Avinu Malkeinu, Bonim Atem Lashem Elokeichem. The prototype of parenting is the Rebbeinu Shalom Kivayachol's relationship with mankind. And the Rebbeinu Shalom is teaching us the aspiration of parenting is the chetz. The arrow should hit me and my child should be protected. But if we need a Rebbeinu Shalom being the role model for this, and the Rebbeinu Shalom chooses among from the birds, he found a nesher of kanfei nesharim, and the same thing in Ahazinu. Ki nesher yoyer kinoi al goizol of yirachev. The Rebbeinu Shalom is like a nesher. So obviously that's not an automatic thing. Being remiss in that is not something that a person should have embarrassment about. Yet, in a time of crisis, in a time of tragedy, we have to reevaluate what parenting is supposed to be. We can't go by what we're used to or what's the norm out there. We're not going to save our children. We're not going to save our youth by olam kimin hagoy noyeg, by parenting like parenting we're accustomed to around the world today. We have to revisit the Torah to see the standard of what a parent should aspire to. One has to train himself and herself to a mentality, to an instinctive ability of mutav she'yipol lachetz be what it is. My child should be safe, no matter what the cost is, no matter what the consequences are. My child must be safe. I'm not saying this chas v'shalom as musar. I don't know if I aspire to that. But the Torah does set that as the gold standard of Jewish parenting. Jewish parenting is kanfei nesharim. Jewish parenting is keneshe yair kinoi. And I beg to say, a Jewish teacher, a Jewish Rebbe, a Jewish Mora, a Jewish Menahel, a Jewish playgroup teacher, a Jewish kindergarten teacher, Vishinantom levanecha elu atalmidim. Minayin shetalmidim kruyim bonim atem lashem elokeichem. Jewish education is defined by a relationship of parent to child, child to parent, especially in a time where so many different situations arise where families don't provide security like they used to provide 100 years ago or so. And so many times the school is the real, truly Beis HaSefer. It's a home away from home. So if we're aspiring to be parents in the sense of Kinesha Yoyakinoi, of Kanfei Nesharim. We should aspire to be teachers and moras and rebbes on all levels of Kanfei Nesharim and Kinesha Yoyakinoi. And if we do upgrade our parenting skills, that feeling of mutav sheyipoy lachayitz bi, we will notice red flags. Then we're going to be the chacham yorei v'sar meira, because our approach to Amaleinu Elu Abanim will be one of wisdom, and will avoid the pitfalls of makshaliba yipul bara, and will avoid the pitfalls of ksil misaver uboteach. I know what I'm saying sounds a bit utopian, but Rabbi Say, the alternative we've heard. I don't believe anybody that came tonight is unaware to a large extent of the scope of this great plague of suffering that we're suffering. We should be thinking out of the box. Yes, I think my words are out of the box. But times arise where one has to think out of the box. It's an Eis Tzara LeYaakov. And in an Eis Tzara, solutions that are out of the box have to be explored, pursued, and be'ezras Hashem, we should have success. I give my bracha to Amudim, to the leadership of Amudim. Special bracha to Ravavi for putting together tonight's program. And it should be Zeichet Sheyiratzain Shetishre Shechina B'maisei Yadein. HaKadosh Baruch Hu should bless our endeavors with Siyata D'Shmaya. Thank you.